Welcome to the Kentucky History Channel, where we strive to bring you all the Kentucky history content you want and you deserve. Kentucky is a part of all of us, and we plan on covering all the history we can, from Pike County to Fulton County, from Louisville to Harlan. Here on our YouTube channel, you can find many videos dedicated to different events, people, governors, and places in Kentucky. There's something for everybody. While you're here, if you like the channel, hit the subscribe button and the notification button so you get notified anytime new Kentucky history is available. And if you want to support the channel, we have a Patreon page as well, or patreon.com/KYHistoryPod. Welcome back to the Kentucky History Podcast. I'm your host, Jameson Cable, and we got a great guest here celebrating 5 years of Kentucky History Podcast. We got Colonel Russ Carson Jr. How you doing?
What's up, man? It's been a long time, hasn't it?
It's been a long time, and this is actually your first time on the podcast.
It is. It really
Yeah.
truly is.
Yeah.
That's the start of that. Hey,
Yeah,
happy
so
birthday to you.
woo!
5 years, man. That's an accomplishment.
Yeah, it's a lot of Kentucky history documented,
Right.
but just a needle in the haystack for the big picture of Kentucky
My
history.
hat's off to you, man. You guys have been killing it and growing, and so much is in the can and documented, and it's real inspiration watching what you're doing.
Yeah, well, thank you, and you have been a part of that. I get stopped all the time around here in Lincoln County. Hey, you're that guy on that video in Crab Orchard. I'm like, oh yeah, I am. But yeah, but we're talking some Kentucky history. We got some little topic we'll talk about today, which if you know anything that me and you have done before, we've covered the frontiersmen a lot.
Yes.
But we're going to talk about some of our favorites. So.
Yeah, there's a few favorites that are left off the list. We don't have time for it because you put me on a time limit. But there's a lot of honorable mentions.
Yeah, there is, and if we go on to, the rabbit hole gets deep. It gets deep, and we'll just throw in those honorable mentions at the end, and then you can go back, find a podcast episode or a YouTube video, and we talk about it then. So
there you go. That's right. I'm sure you have.
So
we will probably say that this is not a top 10. This is not a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
No.
This is a purely alphabetical.
This is super nerdy. We're starting with alphabetical, last name first. Who do you got first, or who's one of them? I should say it that way, because.
Well, I mean, I didn't even write any notes for this. I don't know. I didn't even write any notes, but in alphabetical order would be Daniel Boone.
Woohoo! The most documented frontiersman of Kentucky history. Definitely.
Any frontier, but yeah.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. So I mean, why is Daniel Boone so important? I have to ask, but go ahead.
I mean, people call him, the father of Kentucky, and that's disputed. We've talked about that before, but mainly because he's the most well-known, person. And there are those that rival him in importance of what they did, but he's the one that we know about. And, and obviously, he was in Kentucky earliest, I think it was 1767, I think is the first time that he ventured into Kentucky, way before settlement. And he was the duty expert. He was hired by Henderson and them because he was supposed to be the guy that knew the way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not to sell him short by any means, he has done many things. I mean, he was captured by the Shawnee, did the gauntlet, of course, escaped. He's honestly captured numerous times, but just not as in depth, I guess, as when he spent time with the Shawnee.
Well, he gets a bad rap in the common or modern day, I guess, by some local historians and things because they're jealous. There's other communities that you and I have visited. They're like, Daniel Boone ain't squat, dude. This guy, our town's the one that was important. They try to belittle Boone and things, but no, Boone is definitely. If I had to do a top 10, he'd be really up there. So.
Oh yeah. But we want to keep this list going on. But the other Boone is going to be Squire Boone, right?
Next one on the list, right?
Another big name. Oftentimes think about like he's the forgotten Boone. He is, um, but just as important as Daniel, just not as notable.
Right. Well, he was there. He was with Daniel most of the times,
Hmm.
and he was right by his side on his expeditions to explore. He was there at Boonesboro with him, and he even was considering moving out to Missouri with him in the later years. All kinds of things there, or maybe he did for a little bit, but he's an important guy in his own in his own right. But everybody forgets about him.
Yeah, yeah, normal little brother, right?
That's right. But he's a blacksmith there at Boonesboro, and during the siege, he's an inventor. I don't want to throw that out there about him. And he made a cannon that fired one time out of a log. They fired a cannon, and he even made a squirt gun for with old rifle barrels in order to put out fires on the
Hmm.
that the Indians were shooting with arrows on the cabins there. So
Yeah. So, very important to the settlement of Kentucky as well, and he had his own station up in more towards Louisville, and many other things.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was at Paint and Stone near Shelbyville there. And as a matter of fact, we are less than 72 hours away from the reenactment. It's this Saturday, so I don't know when people are watching this, but the reenactment is
Last Saturday.
okay. Yes, so you already missed it. Sorry, the reenactment at Shelbyville. So
Well, yeah, but very very important part of Kentucky history because not as many people even know about it as much.
yeah, he was shot a couple of times, and his group was trying to make an escape, and bunch of them got killed in the. But yes, and buried in a cave. Have you been there yet?
I have not been there. It's in southern Indiana, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Why is he buried there?
but he moved there.
Well, that particular cave, he and Daniel were doing on a hunting trip, and he was running from some
Mm.
Indians and fell down in a slit in the ground, and that saved him. So he said that's where he wanted to be buried, is in that cave.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of uh, superstition, I guess, or surrounding his burial and so forth. And like, you can get more into it when
Yeah,
with his kids and his sons and all that stuff. But
yeah. You told me we only get 2 minutes, and we're killing that. So.
yeah, no, we are.
Actually,
uh,
I can give you 20 minutes on each one
yeah.
or more. So.
Yeah. Well, here the next one is one of the few high schools in Kentucky who says goes after the full name George Rogers Clark.
Right.
Um, a very big important general. Or I guess he was general, right? He got up to that was
Oh yeah, most
his
definitely.
rank. Yeah.
Yeah, most
Um,
definitely. Matter of fact, this morning I saw a cinch sack. You know what a cinch sack is? It said George Rogers Clark High School. It was in my trash can. I was like, "Well, what is this here?" I saw a big cardinal on there. My wife got it at one of these events. Threw it away.
yeah.
But anyway, yes, George Rogers Clark High School, the conqueror of the old Northwest, the
Mhm.
Washington of the West, and
There you go.
probably the most forgotten American hero. Like
Mhm.
because most folks don't know him, but without him, we don't have the Big Ten.
That's right. Which I
No
mean,
Big Ten.
do we really need the Big Ten?
Yes, we do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Midwest.
Uh-huh.
Basically due to his accomplishments of taking Vincennes, Kaskaskia, Cahokia, and secured the most of what we call the Midwest: Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, parts of Minnesota for the United States.
Yeah, and a lot of those soldiers that went with him were soldiers from Kentucky. He was very involved in the defense of Kentucky in those early years. I mean, basically, he was in charge of it all for the first 10, 15, 20 years or so.
Well, and one of the things too is he fought against Henderson's deal there with settling Kentucky. It could have been we could be living in Transylvania.
Yeah.
We all could have been vassals of Lord Henderson. And, instead, he fought in the Virginia legislature for Virginia to take Kentucky and make Henderson's treaty with the Cherokee and the Transylvania make that all a void.
Yeah.
So there, here we are. So
Yeah.
there's some
Well,
people in Boonesboro don't like that.
no, they don't. uh, well, let's talk about another fella. One of my tops for sure, and honestly, a lot of people that are into the Kentucky frontier or just Kentucky history, Simon Kenton's up high on that list of important frontiersmen.
Yeah,
Um,
hard to top him.
yeah, yeah,
Hard to top him. I'd put him over Boone. Well, I just if we're going to do a top 10, it's my favorite. He's my favorite person in history. So
yeah.
Simon,
Well, he did numerous things similar to Boone. Ran the gauntlet many times.
nice.
Was so respected by the Native Americans and stuff that or Native Americans that he got a name. What was his nickname that they gave him? Always running, always or
Oh
gun
well, they
always
said
loaded.
he was the man whose rifle was never unloaded, or was
Yeah,
always
that's right.
loaded. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because he could run full sprint and reload his rifle
mhm,
there.
yeah,
So
and he
yeah,
saved Daniel Boone's life. So
a couple
he,
times too. Yeah.
he's high on the list.
They say there's it's disputed. I talk to lots of people, and everybody's got a different opinion about. You never know. That's the thing about history, And oh no,
Mhm.
that's not true. He was this, and no, he was not there. He was this. It happens in every day of my life. But people say he's roughly about 6'4", big guy. I liken him to like a tight end. He's like an
Yeah,
NFL
yeah,
tight end, great big boy, and quite the man, and helped settlers to settle on the frontier, and self-made man. He was hiding in the beginning. He thought he killed a man, and it's hard to not admire a fellow that pretty much had lost everything, was an invisible person, but ended up being such an important person
mhm, yeah,
to
and
Ohio and
yeah.
American history.
Yeah, and he also he's helped establish Washington there and would eventually Maysville and those areas. So he's a big figure up in that area too. Um, now the other one, the next one here, uh, James Herod, the founder of Kentucky, right?
Nah, I don't know, maybe. I mean, big important person for
Uh-huh.
sure. You
Mhm.
know.
Now easy now. You can make some people angry if you.
Yeah, I know, yeah, and I have spent a lot of time with my beloved friends over at, in Harrisburg, and they just had their 250th celebration because
Mhm.
they are a year older than Kentucky,
Yep.
Boonesboro and everything else, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I find him one of the most interesting because he also died a little bit, right in 1792 when Kentucky was formed. So it's like his life ended. He had a long life for the time period, but like, what else could have been if he would have stayed alive, and what happened to him?
Well, there's about yeah, exactly, but there's like 7 different rumors of how he died
Hmm.
and things. Chances are he probably was murdered. That's probably the most likely thing that happened, but some people just say that he took another name and moved on. Can you imagine living in a time like that? You just move somewhere else, change your name, no one knows who you are. You're a whole nother character. But yeah, definitely. And one thing about it, he fought with Henry Boquet there in 1763. Like the end of the French and Indian War, and a lot of these guys cut their teeth in that French and Indian War, and it's really neat to see how all these people came from a very close geographical area, but also were fought in the French and Indian War first, and kind of gained their notoriety and their respect to become leaders to bring
Yeah.
into and to bring people into Kentucky.
Hmm. Hmm.
Man, it's really hard to talk for 2 minutes about these
I
people.
know, I know. There's so much to say.
It's
you're
funny.
get you're getting the cliff notes here because as James Harrod did settle Harrodsburg, first town in Kentucky. Our next guy, my number one, oh Benjamin Logan,
Oh, yeah, I see, I understand why. Yeah.
settled here, at Stanford, the second town in Kentucky. No matter what anybody says, but yeah, another important frontiersman. He came down the Wilderness Road instead of going north, veered a little bit left, and came and settled Stanford.
Well,
Um,
yeah, we mentioned earlier that George Rogers Clark, who's what I call the most forgotten American hero.
mhm,
Benjamin Logan, to me, is the most forgotten man in frontier history, not just Kentucky history, but frontier history
mhm,
because of his importance. But unfortunately, even though we try daily, you and I, to remedy this, if I asked 100 people at Walmart if they knew who Benjamin Logan was. I don't think I'd get one. Walmart may not be the best. Okay, at the mall or somewhere, but
Well, maybe at the Stanford Walmart, you might get it. You might get one.
yeah, there you go. Right. I mean, once again, Benjamin Logan was, fought with Boquet again. He was in Lord Dunmore's war and had troops there and became the third settlement in Kentucky, established there at St. Asaph,
Mhm.
at Logan's Fort there, and then led troops into Ohio, on attacking the Indian raids, and
Mhm.
it became a part of the legislature. Was at the Constitutional Convention, was
Ran for governor.
right over on and on and on and on. So
Mhm.
buried in the middle of the cornfield.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. Now you've been there, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, this next one is a little bit more. We're getting a little deeper into the who's who because Hugh McGarry. Who's Hugh McGarry?
Well, he has a really bad rep, and there's a lot of people but I like him. I like him. I mean, he is if you had to sum him up, he's the Scots Irish hothead. He's a son of immigrants from Northern Ireland. Frontiersmen. Cut his cloth on the same thing too. He he was actually, and a lot of people don't realize this too, is he was on one of Boone's expeditions with him in 1772 when Boone came to Kentucky exploring and things. So he had a big relationship with Boone. It's funny how all these guys are connected.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know,
yeah.
the population was so small, and there's only a very small part of the population that was doing the exploring. So he was connected with, with Boone and that too. But the thing that, well, oh yeah, you better mention this. I mean, a lot of people know about the William Ray murder, by
Mhm.
the Indians outside of Fort Herod. That
Mhm.
was actually his stepson, and when he they had some Indians attack. He saw he was wearing his stepson's shirt, killed him, and then he just buried that guy. Right? Did he bury the Indian?
Uh, no.
No, he didn't bury. I don't know, man. You just might get you censored here, but he chopped him up and fed the meat to his dogs.
Oh. Oh.
So quite brutal.
Brutal.
Quite
Yeah.
brutal. And I'm not saying that's why he's my favorite. I'm just saying that out there. But
Yeah.
he was convicted of gambling and betting on Sunday over there. Another guy we're going to talk about
Oh,
race.
jeez.
You
Can't be
know?
doing that.
And then, of course, what he's known for the most is Battle of Blue Licks. I don't have time to go all into it. He basically stood there and said, "Those that ain't cowards, follow me," and rushed the men into the ambush up there. And
Mhm.
Daniel Boone said, "We are all slaughtered men." And that's when the massacre happened, the ambush where they were waiting on him on top of that hill. So we get a bad rap, which ticked him off. And then later on, he ran into Malunta, a very important Shawnee chief. And then he kills
Mm.
Malunta and starts another bunch of Indian raids and things.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can go on and on and on.
Which who else was there at that moment? Benjamin Logan?
Logan, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All these guys. It would have been
Yeah.
just like a fraternity or something of these
Yeah.
guys. So,
Yeah. Which you if and the frontier was I mean, it was a brutal place. Um, so brutality was common. Um, yeah, well, this next guy is also a general. Has a bit more of a bit or a part in American history as well. Is Governor Isaac Shelby, frontiersman, governor, war hero. What else could he be?
multiple time governor too, right?
That's right. Yeah, two-time governor.
First and the fifth,
Mhm.
which was really cool, And of course, he was in Lord Dunmore's War, he was in the Revolutionary War, War of 1812. He was a surveyor into Kentucky early on. He worked for Richard Henderson to survey Transylvania before they purchased it. So he's a politician in Virginia and North Carolina, and surveyed the area around the Cumberland River, but happened to raise troops back up on the frontier. And what, in my opinion, is one of the top two important battles of the Revolutionary War. He was the commander of. So, what battle is that, Jameson?
Kings Mountain.
Yeah, right, right. Where the backwoodsmen, the Over
Yeah.
Mountain Men, defeated the mighty British Army.
Yeah.
He killed Ferguson too on that. So,
Mhm.
gosh, I'm trying so hard to keep it short, without
It's hard, man.
taking rabbits and going down the line.
Well well, he, and this is another just testament to his character and his dedication, loyalty, however you wanna say. On the eve, he's the first, sorry, governor of Kentucky. And then, he's getting older in age and stuff. But then the bells of war come sounding again, or the horns of war, I guess that's probably the better term.
Right,
And the War of 1812 is about to break out, and the people of Kentucky say, "We want to, uh, uh, elect a known war hero,
right.
a proven leader in the time of battle," and they elect Isaac Shelby, and he leads troops, to battle, still, and I don't know his age right off the top, but, he's
I think
old.
it's 62.
Yeah, he's in his 60s, yeah. So, um
Yeah, he rose up twice the amount of troops that they asked for and led them into battle. Now, what kind of a dapper and tough guy is that? See, I'm
Yeah.
48 now, and I'm an old Marine, and I don't know, so I could do it, but
Don't want to, right?
right, yeah, he had. I mean, when they say he led, he really led. He's in the front,
Mhm,
because
mhm.
he led the charge of the battle or the Forlorn Hope charge there at the Battle of Thames, and which is an important battle, obviously, because that was when Tecumseh died. So,
Yep, yeah, yeah, so, we got a few more left here, we're doing good, kind of.
and he
Uh
created Kentucky Colonels.
Oh,
So,
did he? Oh,
yeah,
okay, yeah.
he established what are Kentucky Colonels. So,
Okay, I
uh,
didn't know that part. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, good old Isaac Shelby. So moving on to Michael Stoner, another lesser known frontiersman, but an important one still yet. And again, got a little bit of a different background. What do we know about Michael Stoner?
All right. Well, Michael Stoner wasn't his name, so that we know that, right? His name was
Oh,
Michael. Yeah, yeah, Holsteiner was his real name, but like so many other immigrants, they changed their
mhm,
anglicized their names to make it a little bit easier. He was a son of immigrants, and he was, of course, he was born in Pennsylvania. I think he was born on the how do you say that, Jameson? Is Schuylkill River, Schuylkill, how they say that river
Schuylkill.
outside of Philly, there north of Philly, and in the Pennsylvania Dutch settlements, they said he spoke with a heavy Dutch accent. But
Mhm,
one thing that's been said the most about Stoner, and those that are watching this, he's probably wondering, like, who the heck is Michael Stoner?
yeah.
But the dude was everywhere,
Yeah. What,
literally.
yeah. Yeah.
So,
Whenever you read a history book about frontiersmen, Michael Stoner pops into something at
yeah,
some point.
I mean, he was with Boone on his first long hunting expedition into Kentucky. He went in 1767, not the time that he first surveyed the bluegrass, but
Mhm,
the time they went through the Cumberland Gap. That time they got up to about Crab Orchard or so. Stoner went north up towards Louisville. Boone went actually into Tennessee, and then Stoner went back down. They met in modern day Nashville. That's just
That's crazy.
fascinating.
That's crazy.
Hundreds and hundreds of miles away from civilization, white civilization, and then of course, he was with Boone when they were first trying to settle in 1773, and when Daniel Boone's son was killed. Then he was with Boone in 1774 when they went. Him and Boone went into Kentucky to warn the surveyors that the
Mhm.
Shawnee were on the warpath. He came to Harrisburg, told them guys, get out of here. Then he was with him also at the Battle of Point Pleasant. Then he was with him in 1775 when Boone led the Axemen at the advanced party for the Transylvania Company. Then he was at Boonesboro again, and he ends up in North Carolina right when they starting up with the Battle of Kings Mountain. So he was
Mhm.
Kings
Might as well join.
Mountain, right. The guy
Might as
was
well do that too.
nice. He was at the Battle of Blue Licks. He was at the siege of Boonesboro. He was shot, at the siege of Boonesboro. So
Yeah, and he lived a long life too. Kept exploring. Headed up to Montana, North
yeah.
Dakota.
Well, in 1820, or not 1820, I'm sorry, 18. He went and visited Boone a couple times, and
Mhm,
he almost moved to Missouri.
mhm.
Boone moved to Missouri in 1799, and he
And
almost moved there with
yeah,
him.
and didn't Boone talk him into doing or is it he talked Boone into doing one last expedition or something like that?
Right. him and Boone's sons and others. Boone was in his 70s and Stoner was 62 years old, and they explored the Missouri River.
Yeah. Jeez.
1,600 miles deep on the Missouri River in Montana and North Dakota. You know,
Madness, man. Madness. Hey, well, maybe here in about 20 years we can get together and we'll we'll drive to Montana or something.
right, right. That works.
Yeah. Um, so one more here on the list. William Whitley.
Big
Uh,
W's.
Big W's, big local man here in Crab Orchard. First brick house, a firecracker in his own right. Interesting guy, to say the least.
Well, he had his touch on a few things in Kentucky that's big in Kentucky that people wouldn't even realize.
Yep.
So well, he first settled in Kentucky, 1775, or there at St. Asaph. Went to Harrodsburg with Benjamin Logan when they, retreated from there for a little while. But when he came back and established his household, like you said, first brick house in Kentucky. Some say west of the Alleghenies,
Mm-hmm.
and then they just a boring farm, I guess, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Just no, it was crazy, wild. What's the word? Philanthropist? Is that right? Or maybe not a playboy by any
Yeah,
means. He was an honest man to Esther, uh,
yeah,
but an entertainer.
right.
Uh, Horse racing, all that stuff. Big parties. He was the gentry, I guess, of the early Lincoln County, Kentucky area.
Sure.
Um, he,
Had a
go ahead.
Sportsman's Hill right there
Sportsman's
on
Hill, yep,
Hermantown.
yeah, and he also absolutely hated the British
Very much.
to an unnecessary degree, probably so much so the British run their horses clockwise, so we're gonna
Yes,
run ours counterclockwise, and
that's right.
that'll show 'em. That'll show 'em.
And today, that's still the case.
Yep, yep.
That's still the case here. And when you watch horse racing in America, the Kentucky Derby, we run that
Mhm.
counterclockwise, and that's due to the tradition started by.
William Whitley.
Yeah, yeah. And then he got up in age too and decided to. Well, he was made a lieutenant. Yes, but before that, he was made a lieutenant colonel of the Kentucky militia and led a raid down into Tennessee against the Chickamauga,
Mhm.
part of the Cherokees there, and led a very successful raid there too.
Yeah. And another interesting thing with William, when he first came, or maybe not when he first came, or on his trips to Kentucky, one of his first ones, I guess he came upon, they came upon somebody scalped, and he was just so appalled by it that this, I guess the look of it or whatever, or the barbaricness of it, that he
Well,
was just
it was William Ray,
oh
um, Hugh McGarry's stepson.
oh
That's whose body came. See, they're all connected there for
yeah
a while.
yeah
Yeah,
yeah. So anyway, though, with William, he saw this and he was so appalled by it that from then on out, any native that he killed, he scalped.
yeah,
So, I don't know the logic behind that, but that's what he did. And then
yeah.
going forward to War of 1812.
Right. And I mentioned earlier that Isaac Shelby led the charge at the Battle of Fallen Harbor. I better back that up. That was not accurate right there. But he was at the Battle of Thames.
Hmm.
Isaac Shelby was awarded a Presidential Medal of Honor
Yeah,
there from that battle. But William Whitley was up in age too. I think he was in his late 50s.
yeah.
Was he in his 60s by then?
I don't know if he was that old. Probably, yeah. He probably was in his 60s because he would have been.
Think he was born in 1748. So yeah, he might have been in his 60s. So, but may not be right on 1748. Have to look that one up. But
Yeah,
we only
that's
have 2 minutes.
okay.
So he's up in years, and he went off to war himself with his horse,
Yes, and he
Emperor, right? I think it was Emperor.
yeah, maybe. Sounds right. Uh, but he was in the, what's the charge of the forlorn or yeah, and
Right.
that is where he died. Um,
But before he died, or while he was dying, he is said to be
the man who killed Tecumseh.
Well, I thought Richard Mentor Johnson killed Tecumseh, the
Yeah,
vice
there we
president.
go. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe.
Tecumseh Johnson killed Tecumseh, right?
That's
And
right.
it
That's
was
the
great, together.
saying. But so William Whitley's daughter wrote later on after he'd passed away that it was said that he was the one who fired the shot that killed Tecumseh. Um, you
Well, and they said he died simultaneously with him,
yeah,
at the same time. So,
yeah.
a
So
lot of these guys are big legends and things. And
mhm.
in those combats, I mean, who in the world knew? I mean,
Oh yeah,
it could have been both of them. It could have been
yeah.
Johnson and Willie. And it could have been Private Schmuckatelli. I don't know. I don't know. But a lot of these guys were larger than life heroes in their time. So their legends grow and bigger over time. So.
Yeah. Well, who's your honorable mentions?
Well,
I'll go with mine. I'll start with mine.
yeah,
James Knox. James Knox is definitely a one up there that, again, follows in the footsteps of all these people. Another one that's very close to Benjamin Logan. I would say that he was Benjamin Logan's best friend in many aspects. I also think or contest that Knox County is actually named after him instead of Henry Knox, but not a lot of proof beside that. But
yeah,
he would have been there during that time and so forth. And um, but he also, after Benjamin Logan had died, he married Benjamin Logan's wife.
he
Uh,
did. Yeah,
so he would be definitely an honorable mention. One that we did an episode on a while back. Um, very, very, very important frontiersman. My other one would be John Floyd,
yeah. Oh
who
yeah, definitely.
who died a little sooner. In 1840 or 1784, I believe. So he didn't get that long lasting as some of the others. But I would consider him pretty important too because he surveyed a lot of Kentucky and had his hand in a lot of the decisions when it came to land, and that was a kind of an issue in Kentucky. So,
Absolutely. What about Henderson?
oh well, yeah, yeah. I don't know. He's okay.
Right.
I wouldn't call him a. I mean, I guess you would have to consider him a frontiersman.
And there's
Uh,
a lot, and Colonel Bowman,
mhm.
Colonel
Oh
Bowman, that
yeah.
Bowman's 100.
Hmm.
And then if you read a lot of the records, he was not liked as a leader. People thought he didn't want to fight and things, but he
Hmm.
he did head up the militia there for the longest time there in Kentucky. So
Yeah.
he's definitely one you could give an honorable mention to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, any others right off the top? I mean, there's a lot, but um,
Yeah, it depends on when you cut off Frontier. So I'm trying to
mhm.
keep quiet and not go down too many rabbit holes. No, we want to keep it short, and that's something that
Yeah,
I always have a problem with.
I know. Well, we've done good. We missed the mark by a lot, honestly, I guess. But still, we talked about some frontiersmen. Let us know some of your favorite frontiersmen. If we left any off, oftentimes I find people will like, mention or connect, hey, my great my ancestor was with this one or that one, and so they have that close connection to a certain frontiersman.
Right.
So let us know who your favorite frontiersman was, and well, that's it. Anything else?
Yeah, real fast here. I'm just going to give a real fast plug.
Go
Check
for it.
out familytreenuts.com. We have our brand new website that just premiered about 4 hours ago. So it's just
Oh,
we've had a website obviously for years, but our new pretty pristine one's out. So check that out. Our YouTube channel and that kind of stuff too. And I just wanted to say before we go that 5 years that Jameson's been doing this is a real inspiration. He's going to go down as the guy that man. They're going to put a statue of you in the Capitol building someday because
oh,
these stories that have been forgotten you're putting out there and they're cataloged and it's so drastically important. And the people that want to know when you Google any of these, man, I look these people up and there's Jameson. There's Jameson. There he is again. So you're at the top of the list when it comes to these topics. And I, for one, very very much appreciate you and wish you a happy anniversary. 5 years, man.
woohoo! Well, thank you, man, and it's been a lot of fun, a good ride, and I appreciate you being along for it as well. You've helped in many ways. So again, you might need to come on the podcast a little more.
We can do it.
But yeah, thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking about the frontiersmen and so forth. Thank you guys all for listening as well for 5 years, some of you all. And we appreciate it. And we hope to bring you more Kentucky history. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Welcome to the Kentucky History Channel, where we strive to bring you all the Kentucky history content you want and you deserve. Kentucky is a part of all of us, and we plan on covering all the history we can, from Pike County to Fulton County, from Louisville to Harlan. Here on our YouTube channel, you can find many videos dedicated to different events, people, governors, and places in Kentucky. There's something for everybody. While you're here, if you like the channel, hit the subscribe button and the notification button so you get notified anytime new Kentucky history is available. And if you want to support the channel, we have a Patreon page as well, or patreon.com/kyhistorypod. You've probably heard about Daniel Boone, but what about the rest of the frontiersmen who came to Kentucky and settled? That's what we want to bring to the Kentucky History Channel. The stories of the untold, the stories of those forgotten. One thing to expect on our channel is great Kentucky content. Some stories that you've never heard of. The Night Riders, who began in western Kentucky. Bloody Monday, the riots in Louisville. The assassination of Governor Goebel, the only governor ever assassinated in the United States. Stories from all over Kentucky, stories that are unforgettable once you've heard them. You can find out who counties in Kentucky are named after and how your county got started. From beginning to end, we plan to document every county in Kentucky, all 120. Reach out to us on all of our social media platforms. Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and also leave a comment on one of our YouTube videos. You can also check out our podcast episodes. You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and many more. We're always seeking to find more Kentucky history so we can bring it to you. The viewers, the listeners, we want all the stories and all the events from Kentucky's great history to be told and shared everywhere.